So, in terms of how this is framed, race has to be taken up. And so the recommendation that I made to that group was this. Let us look at how we can get some of that high quality teaching with the students who are not performing, for whom the gap isn't closing, and we'll close it. Race does matter. And then there are three other things I want to say very briefly. So within that framework, we have to ask what ought to be the content of professional development that's geared to closing the achievement gap that attends to race. Well, questions about race and the implications in teacher practice must be part of it. History and how historical forces have shaped how we are and what we do must be part of it. So much professional development begins from today with no context. It makes it sound as if what teachers do happens because they're just having a bad day, as opposed to the fact that these are deeply rooted in the structures of this country, in the system of this country, and in the legislation. We need to link history and race and teacher practice in the work. We definitely need professional development that allows us to understand and make positive use of the languages and experiences of home. And those things cannot be done by osmosis. Teachers need modeling and opportunities to practice. They need coaching. They need a chance to try it and to come back at it again. We need professional development that allows us to connect with families, to understand where families are coming from, to figure out how to reach out to them in order to embrace them in our work. And we definitely need professional development that's linked to student voice. Couple of quick examples. Having students tell us what is working is useful. I was in a classroom where an 8th grade teacher had made it work in such a way that by the end of every unit, the class sat around and told her which particular thing she did that helped them learn. And I remember one particular girl said, I remember now to put the S at the end of my sentences because you said we could move our bodies like this. And every time we did like this, I remembered to put the S. So the teacher was using a whole range of techniques, not just standing there and saying, put the S. So this girl said, that's when I remember it. And so having our students tell us when we are doing well, teachers need time for that sort of thing to happen. There must be direct application to practice. Tom Guskey, who does major work in evaluation of professional development, says there are 5 levels, and the 5th level is never touched. The first level usually has to do with, do you like the professional development? Did you learn anything from it? Did you do anything with it? And then there are 2 other elements that never get touched, and they have to do with how much organizational support have you got to carry through it? And the 5th thing, what did the students learn from your attending the session? So when I do invitations to my professional development, I ask the question, what are your students going to learn as a result of your participating in this session? So those are some elements to look for in the kind of professional development to support. Quick comments on the context. Time. Professional development requires time. If you want to buy something for a school, buy time. Time for teachers to collaborate. Time for 2nd and 4th grade teachers to talk with each other and look at how they might work together. Time for teachers to visit each other's classrooms and see best practices. Those things require time. Another quick thing about time. Make sure that there's time during the day when teachers are at their maximum in terms of thinking to participate, and not at the end of the day when they're all worn out and can give nothing to you. I've conducted the same series in different districts, some during the day and some after school, and it's like night and day in terms of what I get from the teachers. So those are things to be bought. And then I just also want to say that as we think about teachers, let's think about administrators. Let's think about the development that needs to happen with administrators in order for all of this to work. The leadership in schools. Administrators can create the kind of climate where teachers want to collaborate, where teachers don't feel afraid to make a mistake, where teachers are in fact able to be leaders. And those things require development of the leadership. So in summary, let me say then, that when you look at what to develop and where to go, these are things to keep on the table. Race, on putting race on the table in all of the conversations, planning, execution, and evaluation. Insisting on equality as the outcome of all of this. Lots of times we say we want the achievement gap to close. And I throw this out to you. If the achievement gap closed, it would be a different world. And I hope that everyone who is calling for equality really wants it. A bureaucrat in one place I work said, but Enid, the gap is closing. What do we do now? Because in fact, these children will be competing with my children. I mean, when you close the achievement gap, you are going to rearrange the social order. Just letting you know. So in case this is, so let's be clear that that is really what you want, right? Because it does mean that things are going to be rearranged. And so I hope that that's what we're working towards. I hope that as we try to put race on the table and insist on equality, that we build on assets. We live very much in a blaming society. And I would really like us to see us take this topic and say, teachers can learn to teach better, but we won't just pronounce it, we will make sure they're able to do it. A principal said to me the other day, you know, this first year teacher I have, she is so disorganized. And I said to her, has anybody worked with her on organization? Because, you know, people don't just arrive here in their diapers organized, intelligent, or whatever. They need working on. And that's the kind of professional development that I hope that we are looking at. So we buy time and tools, we measure change, and above all, we must spread stories of hope. Places where it's changing. Places where we have made a breakthrough, places where the gap has been closed, places where school has become a more human experience, places where children's voices are heard and families are part of it. I hope that's the kind of thing we want to fund, because those things must be in place if we're going to close any gap at all, and keep our definition of what the gap is wide, transformative, and essentially democratic and just. Thank you very much.